A proposal that would expand the current magazine ammunition limit to 30 rounds is triggering an interesting battle among gun rights advocates in Colorado. Rocky Mountain gun owners are against the idea and have urged lawmakers to accept only a full repeal of the limit. Meanwhile, others, including the Independence Institute, believe the concept is a step in the right direction. Lynn, you wrote a very important part of this, not only of the conflict between these two organizations, but also what happened at the legislature yesterday as a procedural move by folks who are supported by the Rocky Mountain gun owners. Tell us about that and how all this kind of comes together.
Well, the bill to repeal the limit died Monday in committee, as expected, on a party line vote. And there was a move on the floor, never ever happened before in legislative history, to say, let's change the record to say that bill really did pass. And they ended up voting on, and of course it was ruled out of order. And then the next motion was, let's overturn the speaker's rule. And in that vote, it was kind of strange because I think a lot of people thought most of the Republicans would vote against it. It ended up only 5 Republicans voted with the Democrats. Had nothing, they did not vote on the gun bill itself, but on this procedural move. But Dudley Brown with Rocky Mountain gun owners has already threatened on the radio that these people will possibly be primaried and everything. And it was just such a strange thing, but it shows this rift on this bill. Now, for example, I know that there are people who, the Independence Institute would like to see a late bill introduced in the session to basically increase the limit to 30 rounds, because most rounds are of 30. And they are opposed by Rocky Mountain gun owners that says, you know, no compromise. It's all or nothing. And the Independence Institute is furious over it. Now, it's created this war on Facebook, on Twitter, social media, radio, with them going after each other. Dudley Brown referred to surrender monkeys. And then you have Caldera and company saying, so now it's Rocky Mountain gun owners and Michael Bloomberg who won't let me have a 30 round. It's interesting because these were two groups that were on the same side in 2013 when Democrats passed those bills. And now it's just created this strange implosion. The bottom line is there's a lot of Republicans who feel that Dudley doesn't want this because he can raise more money when he says, look, they took away our gun rights. So why would he want this? It would give you bigger gun rights, but it might hurt your fundraising.
All right. Well, we happen to have a representative from the Independence Institute as a regular part of our panel, David Kopel. I'm just going to let you go at it. We have a lot of pieces of this. You have been an expert on a variety of gun issues for us. The floor is yours.
Lynn nailed it at the end. It's a fundraising for Dudley problem if the magazine ban is 99% repealed to change it from 15 to 30. Dudley and his group have been around in Colorado as lobbyists since the late 90s, and yet they have never passed a single bill. He's also got his national group, so-called National Association for Gun Rights, which has never passed a single bill in Congress. An impressive record of futility, but only if you think of his group in the same way you'd think of real gun rights groups like Gun Owners of America or the National Rifle Association or the Firearms Coalition of Colorado. As Dudley explained to a meeting of friendly, recently elected legislators a few weeks after the election, he said, don't work with people like Kopel, because then when they pass something, it makes it harder for us to raise money. Dudley's shtick is to keep people upset and angry and giving him money and never to solve any problem. So that's why, for example, in 2003, he opposed the Concealed Carry Act, which was passed and signed by Governor Owens, supported by the National Rifle Association, by the Firearms Coalition of Colorado, and by the county sheriffs of Colorado. It is not a perfect bill, but it was a huge improvement from what existed before, and it's been very positive in how it's helped many tens of thousands of gun owners exercise their right to bear arms. But Dudley always opposes something that could actually pass and help gun owners. That's why he's lying right now in Congress against the NRA's National Right to Carry bill, which would mean that you, as a Colorado resident with your carry permit, you could carry in Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, and New York City. It's why he lies about everyone in the real gun rights movement. It's why he says Alan Gottlieb of the Second Amendment Foundation is the national leader for national gun registration. It's why he says I am a Bloomberg cell, a sleeper cell. So there's two possible views of reality. One is Dudley's a liar, a huckster, and a hoax who is preying off people and taking their money, not for gun rights, but to support himself. The other possibility is that Dudley's telling the truth and that I am a sleeper cell for Michael Bloomberg. You can decide which one is more plausible.
It's either the huckster or Homeland, one of the two. Okay, I can see Luis has something to look forward to here. Eric, when we look at, I guess, you look at the Republican Party, not known in Colorado for a bastion of unity anyway, but you see something like this come down where this isn't going to affect moderate Republicans or even on the libertarian side. We're talking about the gun right advocate Republicans who are very seldom going to go anywhere else, but I'm not sure if it's being split or threatened, but Dudley Brown has effectively primaried that happened in those two Senate districts in Jefferson County, where one of them, Lang Sias, lost to a much more conservative Republican, really because of the support that person got from Rocky Mountain gun owners. So there's effectiveness here, but I don't know what it means for that sector of the Republican Party. How do you look at this whole situation?
Oh, it means ultimate long-term problems for that sector of the party, as it has. Yes, this woman up in Westminster, Laura Woods, did manage to win in a Republican wave election, but that is the exception, not the norm. Normally, as Dudley and a few others of his ilk have taken this party further and further to the right, you've seen what has happened over the last decade in this state, which has become a rather a blue state. Yes, Cory Gardner won, and yes, Republicans had a good year in 14, but it was the first good year that they had had in a decade. Sitting around this table in this seat following David, I often take a different course than him on gun issues, and our views of that world or that issue are not always the same. On this one, his strong words were absolutely right on. Dudley Brown is a hoax. He is a huckster. I might disagree with David Kopel on some issues. In my wildest imagination, I have never sort of thought that somehow he's in cahoots with Michael Bloomberg, and to suggest that
we probably have some video of a recent Colorado Inside Out. So
you have to either be in touch with an alternate reality, believe that, or you just have to be in touch with the sound of your own voice and to rev up that grievance group that Dudley Brown runs and keep that money gravy train coming. Everyone knew when the Democrats passed those gun bills back in 2013, and whatever you made of them, and I supported most of them, but the weakness in that package of bills was the 15-round limit in the magazine ban. Governor Hickenlooper acknowledged as much at this time, even though he signed it and then tried to backtrack with that awkward appearance before the sheriffs, etc. Here is an opportunity to get that right. And Dudley Brown, because he wants to keep his people, and shame on anyone who listens to Dudley Brown and gives him money and believes him, but there is a constituency out there that does that. But shame on them. But he needs to keep those people in a perpetual state of uproar in order to keep his gravy train going. I commend any viewer who is interested to Google the Dudley Brown profile in 5280 magazine and Natasha's magazine. It's roughly a year ago, maybe more than a year ago. Our friend Eli Stokels wrote that, and it points out, I thought it was the best political article, no offense, Lynn, in terms of local journalism of the last year or two. In terms of what ails Colorado politics. I could go on, as David and others have gone on. I'll turn it over, but and lastly, shame on the Democrats as well for also rejecting, a common sense way to fix this.
Right. Natasha, this goes beyond just gun rights advocates. This is going to affect Colorado politics, and it's a story that's probably not going to go away. As you look at it, what's your reaction?
Well, maybe I'm trying to be too utopian about it, but the problem I have is that so much of this conversation is about the lobbyists. It's about, one figurehead. It's about that instead of why we actually make laws, and that's because the public have a concern that goes to the legislature. We make laws to address that. So in juxtaposition with what our first conversation, our first topic at this table is, let's go back to why that limit was put in place. There was a concern between, say, public safety and gun owners, and fine-tuning that law. You know, perhaps increasing it to 30, which seems like a common sense thing. I mean, I don't know that much about guns personally, but that seems like a common sense. So fine-tuning a law, I don't have a problem with. Stalling the political process completely, recalling candidates over one vote, these type of things that are having long-term effects in Colorado politics is disappointing, particularly when the issue, the reason why we did those things is so poignant and of the moment. We're going through that right now.